When the millionaire came home early, he saw his wife kicking his daughter into the pool. For a second, Ethan Crawford's mind refused to stitch the image into reality. He stood on the sun-warmed marble, the fountain bubbling like a polite applause somewhere behind him, briefcase slipping from his fingers and thudding on the stone. The world narrowed to water, blue, blinding, rippling, and to Lily, his 7-year-old, a small splash of pink swimsuit and frantic limbs, hands clawing for air. Beside the pool, Vanessa, his wife, Lily's stepmother, leaned over the edge, one manicured hand still extended, not to pull Lily up, but to nudge her back with the pointed toe of a stiletto. The gesture was almost bored. "Vanessa!" Ethan's voice cracked the afternoon like a whip. "What the hell are you doing?" She recoiled as if caught in bright light. "Ethan, she slipped!" "I was trying to." He didn't hear the end of the sentence. Shoes off, jacket off, and he was in the pool with a clean slice, cold swallowing him whole. He surfaced near Lily and wrapped an arm around her ribs, lifting her face into air. Her eyes were raw, startled. She coughed, then wove her little arms around his neck with the strength of panic. He could feel her heart against him, a sparrow trapped in a cage. "It's okay, baby," he said, kicking them to the steps. "I've got you. You're okay." Water poured from his hair and suit as he hauled them both out. Chlorine burned his throat. When Lily's feet hit stone, she collapsed into him, shivering, small, real. He wrapped a thick towel around her, another around himself. Vanessa hovered a step away, her mouth arranged into a practiced tremble. "She fell in," she said, breathy, wounded. "Ethan, she slipped, I swear!" He saw it again, in the perfect detail that trauma grants. The kick, not a stumble, not a grab gone wrong. A push. The way Vanessa's jaw had been set, the way her eyes had narrowed. Not in fear, but in calculation, before she'd heard him shout. "Go inside," he said, low. Vanessa's chin lifted an inch. "I was inside." He didn't raise his voice. The word came out as cold as the water drying on his skin. Something clipped shut behind her eyes. She turned on her heel and walked toward the sliding doors, heels tapping a metronome of disdain against stone. When she disappeared into the house, the sounds of the afternoon slowly returned. The fountain, the distant buzz of a plane, the drip, drip, drip of water off the towel onto the patio. Ethan knelt to meet Lily's eyes. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head and then nodded, confused by the question. He swept wet hair away from her face. Her lips were blue-tinted, her lashes clumped with water. "Breathe." "You're safe, Daddy," she whispered, voice thin as thread. She said, "I'm a mistake." The words were small and nuclear. Ethan felt them detonate in his chest, shockwave rippling through places that had been healing, scarred, fragile. "Who said that?" "Vanessa," Lily swallowed. "She said you only keep me because you feel bad. She said I ruin everything." He pulled her into him so fast the towel slipped. Hey, none of that is true." He kissed the wet crown of her head. None of it. He lifted her in his arms. She was light, lighter than fear, and carried her inside. The living room's glass walls threw back 100 distorted reflections of the two of them, like a gallery of ghosts. He settled her on the couch, turned up the heat, then went to the kitchen to put on cocoa, the simple ritual anchoring his hands while his head spun. He called to Marta, the housekeeper, to bring another blanket. Marta rushed in, face tight as a drawn string. "I heard, Senor Ethan, is she—" "She's okay," Ethan said. "Please stay with her." "I'll be right back," the cocoa hissed. He poured it, then stopped halfway down the hall outside the den, because he could hear Vanessa. Not crying, not apologizing. On the phone. "Of course I can handle it," she was saying, voice razor smooth. "He walked in on a child having an accident." "No, he didn't see anything." A pause. Then, softer, with a smile he could hear, "I said no." Ethan stepped into the doorway. Vanessa stood by the bar cart, a crystal decanter catching sunlight, a thin gold bracelet bright on her wrist. She ended the call and slipped the phone into her dress pocket like a blade into a sheath. "Who was that?" he asked. She arched an eyebrow. "Hello to you, too." "Who?" "A friend." He took another step. He was dripping onto the parquet, but he didn't care. "You kicked Lily into the pool," her mouth curved. I told you, she fell. I saw you. For a moment, the mask cracked. Her smile cooled into something like annoyance. Then you saw poorly. He stared at her, trying to reconcile this poised woman. Her hair sleek, her dress immaculate, her voice calibrated, with the image branded into his brain. He thought of the wedding vows said under a canopy of white roses 18 months ago. The speeches about second chances and blending families. The way Vanessa had held Lily's hand in front of cameras. He thought of late nights when loneliness gnawed. When he believed Vanessa's presence beside him meant the house was no longer an echo. If you ever touch my daughter again, he said, steady, you will not spend another hour in this house. Your house, she said. A laugh in the words. Everything is always yours with you. It is when my child's safety is at stake. Your child. Vanessa turned her face, showing the good angle to the light, a habit that always made him think of magazine covers. And what am I? An accessory? A charming hostess? You asked me to be a mother to her, then treat me like a nanny you can fire on a whim. A mother doesn't push a child into a pool. She can swim, Vanessa snapped. You had her in lessons since she was 4. She was playing by the edge. She slipped. Do you know what happens when children slip and fall in water? They learn to be careful around water. He could have punched the wall for the arrogance of it. He could have screamed. Instead, he thought of Lily, small and shivering in the next room, and kept his voice quiet. You will apologize to her, he said. You will not be alone with her for a while. And you will tell me right now if there's anything I should know. Anything you've been hiding. Vanessa's eyes flicked too fast toward the hallway camera. The house had cameras, security in a world where kidnappings were headline fodder. Ethan felt something click in his mind like a lock turning. He glanced up at the small black dome near the ceiling and filed the thought away. Of course, she said. All silk. I'll apologize for scaring her. Good, he said, though nothing about it felt good. Now. They went back to the living room where Marta sat with Lily, holding her small hands between her own. Lily looked up when Vanessa approached and took an involuntary inch backward into Marta's side. Vanessa placed a hand over her heart. The actress, he thought. Lily, she said softly, the palace straw version of gentleness. I'm sorry I frightened you. I should have been more careful. Lily's lips pressed together. Ethan knew that look. It was the face Lily made when she remembered that some things could not be undone. Okay, she whispered, because she was a polite child. Vanessa smiled as if absolved. We'll be more careful together, she said, touching Lily's damp hair with the tips of her fingers. Lily flinched. Vanessa let the flinch slide off her like dust and turned to Ethan. Happy? He wanted to respond. He wanted to banish this woman with a gesture. But Lily's cocoa trembled in her hands, so he kneeled and steadied it with his own, and the moment passed like an elevator missing your floor. Why are you home early anyway? Vanessa asked, light as bubbles. Don't you have an empire to run? The meeting ended, he said, not taking his eyes off Lily. Lucky us, she said, and drifted away, leaving a scent of white flowers and something metallic. When Lily finished the cocoa, Marta took her upstairs to change and tuck under blankets. Ethan waited until he heard the soft opening and closing of doors, until the house resumed its performance of serenity. Then he went to his office and locked the door. The security footage was stored behind 2 layers of biometric authentication and 1 of cynicism. He slid his hand onto the scanner, let the lenses read his retinas, watched the screen wake to a grid of camera feeds. Backyard, living room, hallways, the pool camera. He rewound to 15 minutes before he'd arrived. On screen, the pool lay calm under the rectangle of sky framed by the open pergola. Lily skipped into view, a float trailing behind her like a small comet. Vanessa followed, carrying a tray with lemon water. Lily set the float down, toes at the edge, looking at the water with a thoughtful tilt of her head. Vanessa said something. Lily shook her head. Vanessa set the tray down. The video had no audio, but posture has language. Vanessa's hands on her hips, the dismissal of a small hand wave. Lily stepping back, mouth moving fast in explanation. Vanessa stepping forward. The float kicked aside, Lily's shoulders inching upward in a flinch. The way that, When Vanessa reached out, Lily recoiled. And then, there it was, in pixelated clarity. Vanessa's heel nudged Lily's ankle. Not hard, not dramatic. A precise, mean little tap. Lily's arms windmilled. She went in with a splash that sent concentric rings racing across blue. Vanessa waited. She watched Lily flail, and she waited. Long enough for the water to lose its perfect surface, for Lily's small head to vanish, for panic to show in the jerky desperation of her hands when she broke surface again. Long enough to be sure, Ethan forced his breath into something like rhythm. He scrubbed forward to the moment he came into frame, running, sun off the glass, suit still on, anger already a shape built inside him. He watched himself dive. He watched Vanessa step back from the edge in surprise. He saved the clip. He sent a copy to a secure folder in the cloud the way a man sends a will to a lawyer. He closed the program, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling until the pattern in the plaster became a map of a place he didn't recognize. On the bookshelf, a frame held a photo of him, Lily, and Vanessa from last Christmas. Snow machine foam dusted their hair. Lily's smile was real. Vanessa's was diamonds. He took the photo down and lay it face down on the desk. Marta knocked lightly before letting herself in. "Senor Ethan," she said. "She says she is going to meet her trainer. For Pilates, Vanessa?" Marta nodded once. "I told her Lily is resting. She said she will not be late for dinner." "Thank you." He paused. "Marta, have you noticed anything?" "With Vanessa and Lily?" Marta folded her hands in front of her apron. She was careful. She had survived 4 houses before this one and knew the politics of domestic spaces. "I have noticed," she said slowly, "that Lily prefers to be in the kitchen when I am working, and that Mrs. Vanessa prefers Lily to be in her room when guests come. Has Vanessa ever—" He didn't finish the sentence, but the meaning hovered like smoke. Marta's mouth tightened. "I do not leave them alone when I can help it." He felt both gratitude and a flare of shame. That he had hired someone who had quietly, competently tried to plug the holes in a ship he didn't want to admit was leaking. "Thank you," he said again. When she left, he went upstairs to Lily's room. The walls were a pale blue that made him think of the sky on days before storms. Stuffed animals congregated on the window seat. Lily lay under a quilt, reading the same page of a book over and over, eyes moving without absorbing. "Hey," he said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "How's my brave girl?" She set the book down. "I didn't slip." "I know." She studied his face, searching for the smallest lie the way children do when their safety depends on it. "Are you mad?" "I'm mad at what happened," he said. "Not at you." Her shoulders loosened a fraction. "What's going to happen to Vanessa?" "We're going to make sure she can't hurt you," he said. It wasn't a complete answer, but it was true. "And you are going to tell me if she ever says anything unkind, okay?" "Anything at all." "She says lots of things." Lily frowned at her hands. "She says Mommy was weak, that she left because she couldn't handle us. But Mommy died, so that's not true." Ethan felt the rip in the world where Amelia used to be. His late wife had been a constellation of bright edges. Her illness, a lesson in helplessness. "It's not true," he said. "Your mom was the bravest person I know." Lily nodded, satisfied with the certainty in his voice. "Can Marta sleep with me tonight?" "If you want." "And you?" "I'll be down the hall." Doors open. She reached for his sleeve. "Can we have pancakes for dinner?" He smiled, despite everything. "We can have pancakes for every dinner for the rest of our lives if you want," she considered. "Maybe just tonight." "Deal." He kissed her forehead and sat there until her eyes closed and her breath evened. When he stood to go, she stirred. "Daddy?" "Yes?" "Sometimes she smiles at me when no one is looking," Lily said, already half in dreams. "But it's not a nice smile." "I know," he said. "I know." Downstairs, the house floated in a hush that wasn't peace. He called his lawyer Daniel Way, a calm man whose sense of urgency never showed as panic. Daniel answered on the second ring. "Ethan, you okay?" "No," Ethan said. "I need you to start drafting separation contingencies." Silence. Brief, professional. "All right. Anything I should know right now?" "I have footage," Ethan said, the word heavy. of Vanessa pushing Lily into the pool. "I see," Daniel said, and Ethan could hear the gears shift into a higher seriousness. "Send it to me. We'll secure copies and I'll advise on next steps. Do not confront her without counsel present. For now, prioritize safety. If you can have a third party in the house, sibling, friend, do it. I'll have Marta and security. And I'm calling Dr. Patel to check Lily." "Good. I'll be at your place in an hour. Daniel, make it quiet." "Of course." Ethan ended the call and dialed. Dr. Patel, the pediatrician's receptionist, squeezed them in at 7. He sat for a minute with the phone in his lap, then called security to station a guard by the back entrance and another at the front. The guards were discreet, like nice shadows. He told them, voice neutral, that there had been a pool incident. Vanessa breezed back in at 6:30, gym-toned and glowing. She found him in the kitchen flipping pancakes for a child who currently hated the smell of the pool. "How domestic," she said, unhooking sunglasses. "Did the Empire sign the merger, or will you celebrate with syrup either way?" "Lily has a doctor's appointment at 7, he said. "We're going," she blinked. "For a splash in the pool." "For an examination. You're being dramatic. Come if you like." "I have a fitting at 8, she said, her tone implying the hierarchy of importance in the universe and where pediatricians landed on it. "Besides, she's fine." He didn't bother answering. Marta came in with Lily, hair brushed, small chin set. "Ready?" he asked. She took his hand. Vanessa's eyes flicked down at the joined hands and then up at his face. "Don't be late," she said, as if they were going to a party she was hosting. Dr. Patel checked Lily gently, assessed reflexes, listened to lungs, asked soft questions to which Lily gave soft answers. In the fluorescent quiet, the day shrank to facts. Minor water inhalation, but no secondary drowning risk. Bruising on the ankle consistent with a push. Dr. Patel said the word carefully. Looking at Ethan, not Lily. A suggestion for a child therapist to help process fear. Ethan nodded at every instruction, memorizing as if studying for an exam that decided the rest of his life. When they returned, the house was not a home, but a set. Each piece of furniture placed for the camera of some other life. Vanessa stood on the terrace with a glass of white wine, talking to someone on speaker like the host of a long party. She ended the call as they approached, smile at the ready. "How's our swimmer?" she asked. Lily pressed closer to Ethan. He felt her fingers seek his knuckles. Anchor. "Go on up with Marta," he told Lily softly. "I'll come say goodnight." When she was gone, he faced Vanessa. The ocean was somewhere in the distance, just beyond the city's hum, an old rhythm. "We're going to have Daniel over," he said. "We need to talk." "Daniel," she repeated, flattening the name. "Your lawyer." "Our lawyer. Are we getting divorced over a misstep by a child?" Vanessa asked. "Or is this about all the things you've been too busy to fix in yourself?" He almost laughed at the audacity. "This is about you being a danger to my daughter." She rolled her eyes in a movement too sharp to be careless. "You're using her as an excuse. Men always do." "Enough," he said. Her smile sharpened. "What evidence will you show your lawyer? Your impression? Your notoriously poor impulse control? Or maybe, I don't know, footage from one of those little cameras you installed to make yourself feel safe?" She gestured lazily at the corner dome. "Do you think I don't see them?" He didn't blink. "Good," he said. "Then you know what I saw." For the first time, her confidence faltered. Not much, a millimeter, but he saw it, and it gave him breath. She lowered her voice, stepping closer, the perfume of white flowers heavier now, cloying. "You're not the hero you think you are, Ethan. Men like you build glass houses and then break them themselves. Be careful where you throw stones." He thought of the file uploaded to a place she could not reach, of Daniel's sedan already turning into the front gates. "I'll take my chances." Daniel arrived just after 7:30 with a quiet briefcase and a calm that could hold a bridge. They sat in the study with the door open so that Lily, down the hall with Marta, never felt hemmed in by secrets. Ethan played the footage. Daniel watched without expression, then said, "All right," in a tone that separated opinion from plan. Vanessa walked in without knocking and leaned against the doorframe as if she owned it. Is this the part where we pretend I'm the villain? She asked lightly. No pretending necessary, Daniel said, and Ethan was grateful for the way the lawyer's voice made the room obey a different law. Vanessa considered him and smiled like she'd found a chip in a statue. I always wondered what kind of lawyer you'd choose. Of course you'd choose the kind who thinks all right is a battle cry. Daniel didn't rise to it. We'll be drawing up a temporary separation agreement, he said to Ethan, as if Vanessa hadn't spoken. Immediate stipulation. You retain primary residence and sole custody for the duration. We'll also request an emergency protective order preventing unsupervised contact with Lily until a full hearing. Vanessa's laugh was bright and empty. A protective order. How American? You'll be asked to reside elsewhere, Daniel said, effective tonight. We'll have your belongings delivered. Vanessa looked at Ethan, and for a flicker of a second he saw something unguarded. Not remorse, not comprehension. Something like calculation warping into surprise that the equation did not balance the way she'd predicted. Then the flicker vanished. You're overplaying your hand, she said softly. Be careful you don't lose the whole table. Ethan stood. Pack a bag, he said. Security will call you a car. She stared at him, and the kindness she'd simulated for so long burned away, exposing a metal core. You will regret humiliating me, she whispered, the words not loud enough for the hallway camera, perfect enough for his skin to remember. You don't know me, Ethan. Not yet. He met her gaze without blinking. That, he said, is the point. She left without slamming a door, which was somehow worse. The absence of sound made the house hold its breath. Daniel exhaled, then began listing steps, dates, filings, all the scaffolding of consequence. Ethan answered, signed a preliminary notice, nodded through clauses about access and assets that might once have felt like the whole story, but tonight were just stage props around a single true thing. Lily would be safe. When the car's taillights finally slid through the gates and out into the night, Ethan went to Lily's room. She was asleep, lashes feathered against her cheeks, a stuffed rabbit clutched close. He stood there a long time, the silence settling into him like a blanket. On the nightstand, the photo of Amelia watched him with the kind of love that forever rewrites a room. Downstairs, the pool lay still, reflecting the moon like a coin on blue silk. He walked out to it and stood where he had earlier, the stone now cool under his bare feet. He looked down into the water and saw not a mirror but a lens. And through it, the day, the woman, the child, the man he had been, quietly, finally becoming. He turned away and went inside to make pancakes for the morning, because sometimes the smallest rituals were the only bridges strong enough to carry you from one life to the next. And somewhere in the city, a woman in a white-flowered perfume sat in the back of a car and began at last to plan. The night Vanessa left, the house felt taller, like it could breathe. Ethan kept routines simple. School drop-offs, pancakes on Tuesdays, evening walks with Lily and Marta. But quiet isn't the same as safety. Odd things began to happen. Anonymous calls that hung up when Ethan answered. A glossy blog post about the cold billionaire who abandoned his wife, the kind of story that spreads faster than truth. A security guard reported a car idling outside the gate at 2 a.m., the driver masked by tint. Ethan stayed calm, documented everything, and expanded security. He gave Lily language for fear. Name it, tell me, we fix it together. At night, he watched the pool camera, not for danger, but to unlearn the moment that had branded itself behind his eyes. Then came the gala, an annual fundraiser Amelia had founded years ago. Ethan almost skipped. Lily asked him to go. Mom would want you to, she said, tiny hand in his. He went, wearing a black suit that still remembered happier years. Vanessa arrived late, the press swiveling toward her like birds. She wore a pale dress and a contrite smile. I just want to speak, she told the organizer. For charity. For children. Her voice had that chime of sincerity she could summon at will. On stage, she told a story about second chances, about blended families and misunderstandings and the loneliness that can turn women brittle. People nodded. A few dabbed at their eyes. Vanessa's gaze scanned the crowd and landed on Ethan, a flit of triumph, gone as soon as it came. When she stepped down, reporters converged. Questions flowered. Are you separated? Will you reconcile? Vanessa tilted her head, the good angle. I love Lily, she said into a forest of microphones. Every mother makes mistakes. I'm only human. Ethan felt the room tilt. Every mother. He pictured Lily's ankle bruised in the shape of a stiletto's intention. He could have played the video then, made a spectacle of truth. Instead, he thought of Lily's therapist's words. Choose what protects her, not what satisfies you. He didn't speak to the press. He found the gala director and quietly cued a different video. Not the pool, not violence. A montage of Amelia's work with actual families and shelters, with Lily's tiny voice at the end. My mom told me love is a verb. The crowd shifted, attention rerouted. Vanessa watched from the edge, her smile tightening. After the event, in a quiet hallway, Vanessa approached. That was elegant, she said. You're learning. So are you, Ethan answered. You learned the wrong lesson. Her lashes lifted, cool. Which is? That attention is not affection, and that a story isn't true because you perform it well. For the first time, she didn't have an answer. A pause opened between them, large enough to hold a choice. Ethan broke it. Walk away, Vanessa. Start clean somewhere else. I won't ruin you if you stop reaching into our lives. She looked past him, toward the ballroom lights dancing on glass. Men always think mercy is theirs to give, she murmured. You have no idea what it costs to be the woman everyone thinks deserves nothing. He didn't argue. Not every fight is a courtroom. Good night, Vanessa. That week, the judge granted a temporary protective order. Vanessa's PR storm burned hot and then moved on, as storms do. At home, Lily slept through a night without waking. A small miracle disguised as ordinary. Still, storms drop seeds. It was Lily who changed the weather. At school, her class built paper boats and sailed them in the science pond. Lily's tipped. Another kid laughed. She flinched, a flinch that had nothing to do with water. Her teacher, Ms. Rao, knelt. What do we do when a boat tips? She asked, Lily thought. We make a better boat. Exactly, Ms. Rao said. And we ask someone we trust to hold the pond still. That evening, Lily asked Ethan, can we make a better boat? They did, with cardboard and tape and a ridiculous amount of glitter. They sailed it in the bathtub, Marta officiating like a judge at the world's smallest regatta. Lily laughed, the sound clean as a bell. Ethan stepped into the hallway and let himself cry where no one could see. Not from sadness, but release. Days stretched into a new kind of normal. Therapy gave Lily words that fit her. Ethan relearned fatherhood without apology. Breakfasts on the balcony, bad jokes in the car, yes to messy crafts. He also relearned stillness. Not every crisis requires a counterpunch. Sometimes a guardrail is enough. Then, without ceremony, the lesson Vanessa needed arrived. A tabloid leaked security audio from a boutique, not Ethan's doing, but the world's casual cruelty turning on its own. In it, Vanessa berated a clerk for bringing the wrong size, voice clipped, contempt sharp. Do you know who I am? She asked the air. The internet did what it does, spliced, mocked, memed. Brands distanced themselves. The charitable board she'd courted asked her to step back during this sensitive time. Vanessa called Ethan. He almost didn't answer. He did, because mercy is sometimes a boundary, sometimes a door you leave unlocked. I'm being crucified for one bad hour, she said, voice brittle. You could make it stop. I won't, he said gently. But I won't add to it. A beat. Vanessa, help yourself. Not by spinning, by stopping, silence. Then, small, unguarded. Stopping what? Performing. Start telling the truth to someone who isn't a camera. Weeks later, a letter arrived. Not by courier, not on embossed stock. A plain envelope, slanting handwriting. From Vanessa. I won't ask to come back. I won't even ask for forgiveness, because asking is another way of taking. I wanted to win at a life I didn't know how to live. I thought control was love and that fear was respect. Lily showed me otherwise, and I tried to break the mirror that showed me. My therapist says I was taught that love is a stage. I'm trying to learn it's a room. I'm sorry. Not the public kind. The kind that sits with what it did. Ethan read it twice. He didn't frame it. He didn't burn it. He put it in a drawer labeled Not Now and went to make hot chocolate with Lily because it was raining and because rituals keep boats afloat. Spring arrived like an exhale. On the first warm Saturday, Ethan and Lily went to the community pool, the small one, not their blue mirror at home. Children yelled, lifeguards whistled, the air smelled of sunscreen and fries. Lily stood at the edge, toes curled over tile. Her therapist had said to let the choice be hers. Hold the pond still? She asked. I'll try, he said, stepping into the water, hands open. She jumped, came up laughing, swam a stripe and touched his shoulder like a checkpoint on a map she now owned. She swam another stripe. And another. The sun put coins on the water, and none of them were weapons. When they dried off, Lily asked for lemonade. On the walk to the stand, they passed a woman in sunglasses sitting very still. Vanessa. No entourage. No performance. Just a person on a bench under a modest sky. She didn't call out. Didn't reach. Her hands were folded as if to prove they could be empty. Lily looked up at Ethan. Is she going to say sorry? She already did, he said. In a way that was for us to read, not for anyone to watch. Okay, Lily said, considering, and then, can we get 2 lemonades? One for us and one for the lady who sits very still? Ethan hesitated. Lessons have edges. Then he nodded. We can give without going closer. They set the second cup on the bench's far end. Vanessa didn't move until they'd gone. When she did, she lifted the lemonade like a truce flag she wasn't entitled to, but would carry carefully anyway. That night, Ethan tucked Lily in. What did we learn today? He asked, their bedtime ritual. That boats tip and boats float, she said, and that we can make better ones. And people? People can learn, she said. But it's not my job to teach them. It's my job to swim. He kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and stood a moment in the doorway, listening to the small tidal rhythm of her breathing. Outside, the pool reflected a moon so ordinary it felt holy. Inside, the house didn't feel taller anymore. It felt right-sized, like a room, not a stage. The millionaire's fortune would expand and contract with the markets. That was the way of numbers. But the wealth that mattered, a father's trust earned, a child's courage restored, a woman somewhere learning the difference between power and care, grew on a quieter ledger. Love, Amelia had said once, is a verb. Ethan finally understood. It is also an architecture. And this time he was building a house that wasn't made of glass.